Hi everyone. I'm back again. Tonight I am going to be doing something new. I finally came up with a good, easy tutorial I can show you guys. This is how to make an in the hoop purse on your embroidery machine. I think almost all of my purse designs came from Parker On The Porce. I have a few that I got from Embroidery Library, but I'm not a huge fan of them. They're more for like basically wallets with straps. They're pretty small. The ones from Parker On The Porce are the only ones I found that are closer to a real purse size. They're still small, but you can get a wallet in there, phone, keys, whatever you'd normally carry. So anyway, I am going to screen share with you guys, if I can figure out how, and I will show you the different designs that I have, and you can kind of get an idea of what I'm using. Okay, so let me go to this. So I'm going to embroidery in the hoop, purses. Okay, so technically the ones that I'm using are called zipper bags, zip pouches, but I add a strap to it, and I will show you how to do that. It's extremely easy. This design, trying to see if I had a picture. Okay. Anyway, that one came from Designs by Juju. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's okay. Like I say, it's more just a plain zipper pouch. Let me take this off of single window sharing. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Yes, I want to do the entire screen. I don't know why it won't let me. Okay, there we go. Okay. So anyway, this is what I have. Let me make this bigger so you guys can, you don't have to look down the endless tunnel of the video. Okay. So these two came from, this was Designs by Juju. This one came from Embroidery Library. It's just a small zipper pouch. I have a whole section dedicated. They call it Pop for Parker On The Porce. I have a whole section dedicated to those. So some of them are truly like zipper pouches, like this one. Oops, that's not what I meant to click on. I'm trying to find a picture. This is the basic zipper pouch tutorial. I don't know if it actually has a picture of the hexagon one on here or not. No, it doesn't. So anyway, there's a few different ones. So this is the top zip. You usually have options of top zip or front zip. As you can see, top zip here obviously opens on the top. The way it's made, it's not really a true like 100% top stitch, because the back of it comes up just slightly higher, but it's pretty close. And then you have, let me see, I think this one is a front zip. Trying to get a picture of the finished product, maybe. Okay, no, so that's the top zip as well. But this one, as you can see, it is a little more complicated. I have not actually made this one. I think I got this one free with the purchase. But you can do it just plain without all the different fabric choices on the front. Or as it did here, it kind of looks like sun rays almost, like different sections of different types of fabric. Okay, it's been a minute since I made a purse, so I'm trying to go back through my designs and refresh myself on what I have. So this is the double zip. It has a top zip, and then it also has a front zip pocket. So it's 2 separate pockets. I really like this one. It's a little bit more complicated to make, but I mean, overall, it's pretty easy. If you can just follow the directions, it's not too hard. This one is called the Trendsetter. I also really like this one. It looks like this. It is just a single zipper, but it also has this really cool decorative thing on the front. You could add a monogram. You could do different, you could do different fabrics, vinyl, stuff like that. So that one kind of expands your options a little bit. I believe this is the one that I have made the most, I think. Maybe not. So this one, this is called the Seaside because it kind of looks like a shell, but it is a front zip, which I'm partial to the top zip just because you get a hair more bag space, whereas this one you kind of have this top that is left unused. But this one, it has, I don't know if you can see it very good on here, but there are lines there, here, like scallops. You don't have to stitch those, but you can. And then this has the really cool bottom, the scallop piece on the bottom that I really like the look of it. And so I think, let me go back to this one, the top zip. I believe this is the one that I have used the most. Trying to get down to a, okay, so this just shows a very small one. The larger ones you can do, but obviously this is extremely tiny. I was trying to find a picture of one that's been turned into a purse, but I don't think it has one on here. Because on theirs, they just added a little clip-on to the zipper, and then they added a little clip-on here. But this is just for a small one. This could be a wallet or a change purse, something like that. So anyway, I don't know why this is saying you need 2 zippers. I was looking at the directions. You don't need 2 zippers. I don't know why it has 2 zippers on there. You only need 1 zipper, unless it meant 2 pieces. I don't know, but yeah, it's only 1 zipper. Okay, so let me go back over here and stop screen sharing. Okay, so I am going to make, I found this really, really cool fabric at Joann's. I'm a big Office fan, so I found this. That's World's Best Boss, Michael Scott bobblehead. And then I found this one that says, "Hi, I'm Date Mike. Nice to meet me." There's the only drawback of this is they didn't put the little hat on his head. If you're a big Office fan, you know that that's the whole thing of Date Mike is he wears the little golfer hat backwards, and they didn't put it on there. So, but either way, it's still really funny. I was at Joann's a couple days ago, and they had Friends fabric. They had all kinds of band fabric, obviously Disney, all that stuff too. But I was really partial to the Office ones. That's the first time I'd seen Office fabric anywhere. So I'm going to make an Office purse. So you'll need to pick out 2 types of fabric for the front. Usually I do a solid and a pattern. So for instance, pattern. You can make it completely out of fabric, or you can do completely vinyl, or you can do a combination of fabric and vinyl, which is what I usually do because it's a little bit harder to find decorative vinyl. You can, but a lot of times it's really thick. So it's much easier to just do decorative fabric, pattern fabric, and then a solid color vinyl. It's worked very well for me. Okay, so let me screen share with you guys once again, and I will show you the files that come with this. Okay, so this is the top zip. There is a bean stitch only and a satin stitch. The bean stitch would probably work okay if you're appliquing vinyl, but if you're going to do fabric, Unless you put like Heat and Bond light on the back of it, I would not recommend bean, because especially with a purse where it's getting stretched a lot and pulled and moved, it has a tendency, more of a tendency to come out from under that bean stitch. So I like the satin. I haven't deleted off all my extra files yet. So you can see there's a 4x6, a 5x7, a 6x10, an 8x8, and an 8x12. So if you have an 8x12 machine, I mean, it's a big purse. I have a 6x10, so that's the largest I can do. So it's only one file here. I'm going to put that on here. And then take that back off. And I will also pull up the directions as I go, because number one, I need them, and number two, I can show you guys the reference point for what I'm looking at. Okay. Move the computer over a little. And be sure you use tearaway stabilizers with this. If you use cutaway, it's not impossible to get into, but it's a pain because you have to use scissors to actually cut through it, to go back to the zipper, to flip it, and it's a big hassle. I've made that mistake once. So definitely use tearaway. I just use, this is what I'm using. This is just plain old, it's just like a sheet of paper, pretty much. Plain old tearaway, no special thickness or anything. Okay. So, got my tearaway and my hoop. I'm going to pull this up. I do not recommend resizing in the hoop designs. Maybe just one or two clicks if you absolutely need to, but don't go super big or super small, because it can affect the stitching and it won't hold right. Okay, so I think I'm trying to decide if I want to do World's Best Boss or Date Mike. I'm torn because I want to do vinyl to go with it. I have this really nice blue vinyl that I think could work with this, or I have red vinyl that could work with blue. So many decisions. And I get the majority of my vinyl at Hobby Lobby. They have it on, I was trying to find if I had a new roll to show you guys. These types of rolls, they're in the ribbon section. It's the Ribbon Boutique faux leather wide ribbon. It's normally $5 a roll. I wait until it is half off or 40% off, and then I get it. So it's a whole lot cheaper. But you get 2 feet by 8 inches. So it's a pretty good amount. I'm just torn of what kind of stuff I want to do. I have this really cool silver too, which it kind of looks gold in there, but it's not, it's silver. I do like that silver. I think we might just do that. Okay. So things you'll need. You'll need whatever types of fabric you're going to use, obviously. So I'm going to use this as the applique piece on the front, and then I'm going to use this as the back and as the bottom of the bag. Excuse me. That's spaghetti for dinner, and it is, whew, okay. Anyway, I need that. I'll need my zipper, so let me grab that. You need a, let me double check on the, let's see. Okay, with a 6x10, you need a 12-inch zipper. So 12 or 14. If you feel like you're going to, be too pressed to get in a 12 inch, you can do 14. Let's see, I have a dark blue or black. I really want white, but I don't know. Oh, I have this. What size is this? $14 inches. That'll work. Okay. I found me a blue zipper. I haven't made a purse in a while, so I don't even remember what materials I have. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do on your, sorry, I'm getting a notification on my thing. Okay. First thing you're going to do is applique directly onto the stabilizer. So let me put you guys over here. Okay, I'm trying to be sure this is going to stay. Let me, actually I've already got dark blue thread in there, so we'll just roll it out. It'll make it a little easier for you guys to see what I'm stitching. So this is just a placement stitch. So the next step will be adding the zipper. So I'll go ahead and get my zipper ready and some tape to hold it down. So you'll see there's going to be 3 lines. The very top, the second line, and then stitching the third line now. And that's going to help you align your zipper. Okay, and it explains all this in directions, but I know for me, I'm a very visual learner, so it helps for me to actually see it. So you're going to, let me look at the picture again to be sure I get this right. Okay, so you want your bottom edge of your zipper to be on the bottom line there. And you want your actual zipper piece to be aligned to the second line. It will overhang the top line, but that's how it's supposed to be. And you want to be sure when it sews that, okay, that everything is outside of the sewing area. So I'm going to tape it. You don't have to tape it. If you think you can just hold it, that's fine, but I like to give a little extra stability. Because when it sews the zipper on, it will not sew over those same lines that it just showed. That it just sewed. It will sew new lines. Okay, so now the zipper's on. So I'm just going to leave that taped how it is. And you're also going to need fabric for the liner. So I think I'm just going to do white. That will be the easiest. I can find my white fabric. Okay, And it tells you the sizes to cut it if you want to be exact. As I've said multiple times, I am not a measurer. I am an eyeballer. So I'm eyeballing it. Let me cut a piece. Okay. So you're going to take, get this up here. You're going to take the hoop off of the machine. Flip it over. And you'll see, there's your zipper where you just did it. So this is going to be my liner fabric. This one doesn't really have a front and a back, but if it does have a front and a back, let's see, you want, okay, so it's going to go back on like this. So essentially the fabric is going to hang off like this. You're going to sew it, and then when it sews, you'll flip it down, and then you'll have this nice seam at the top. So that is what you're doing. So I'm going to use some temporary adhesive to hold this down. Like I say, my fabric doesn't really have a front or a back, but if yours does, you will need the pretty side down like this. That way when you fold it, the pretty side will be up. Okay, and be sure that it's long enough here that it doesn't go inside of this, because the top of this is more narrow than the bottom. So be sure there's enough to go all the way to the outside edge. Okay, so now that that's on, I'm going to flip it back over very carefully. And just be sure everything remains how it should be. If anything comes loose, you can take it off and re-straighten. You're going to leave this out to the side like that. And then, sorry, I'm trying to look at the directions as I do this. Okay, and so the next piece, you're going to do 2 pieces of fabric in one on this. So you're also going to do your, or this is how I do it, my decorative piece is going to go, which I'm trying to see if this is wide enough. Yes, it is. Okay, so here's my Michael Scott. So this is how I want the front of the purse to be. Obviously, so you're going to want this seam up here, so you need to flip it. So both of your pretty sides should be down. Let me cut this selvage off the edge so I don't get it accidentally on there. And like I said, you just want to be sure you have enough to cover the whole bag. And so this, you're just going to align it right about with the bottom of the zipper. It doesn't have to be exact. You can use temporary adhesive. I normally just hold it because it's just one stitch. So let me pause it so I can show you guys again. So this one is attached to the back of the hoop. This one is not flipped. It's just stuck and then it's pulled directly out. And the same thing for this one. It's just laid upside down, but it's hanging off the top of the hoop, which is how you want it. It looks like a hot mess, but it is how it's supposed to be. Okay. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to leave the piece that's on the back of the hoop. Oh, excuse me. You're going to leave this piece out because you are to sew the applique onto the front. And obviously, you don't want it to be sewn all the way through because this is the liner. So I'm trying to decide if I want to add any bedding or not. I think I am going to add just a small piece. Okay, I'm going to have to roll it for a second so I can reach down here. Okay. You don't have to add batting. I just like to because I feel like it makes it a little bit more sturdy, especially if you're doing all fabric. I definitely recommend adding batting. If you're doing vinyl, if you're doing all vinyl, then don't add batting because it will be way, way too thick. Okay, so I'm just going to slide this in here. Again, this step is optional. I'm just going to align it with the stitch that just sewed. And then I'm going to fold this right down over it. Much easier said than done. Probably should have used some temporary adhesive, but that's okay. Okay. You want it to be down enough where you can still get this nice little seam on the top and it's not too much of a ridge. So I think that'll be just about perfect. Okay, so again, this piece is still sticking out the back. Do not fold this down yet. This next step is just going to be a tack down stitch for all of this, and you'll kind of get to see the bag start to take shape. Whoops. I don't know why my embroidery frame is weird sometimes. Okay, there we go. Make sure your other piece of fabric doesn't get flipped down behind this, because then it would not be how you need it to be. Okay, so that is the purse. So now we're just going to stitch a placement stitch for the vinyl that I'm going to add on the bottom. If you don't want to add the vinyl applique, you don't have to. The front would just be plain like this. Totally an option. You don't have to vinyl applique. You can vinyl. You don't have to applique vinyl. You can applique regular fabric if you want. Okay, so I am going to use this vinyl, which hopefully is wide enough. I don't think it is. It's not. Okay. So just be sure it's covered all the way. You do want the pretty side facing up on this because you're not going to flip this. It's going to get satin stitched around the edge, so you're not going to have a seam that you have to hide. Okay, so now, since this is an applique, we will trim off all of this excess vinyl. So give me 1 second to do that. And you'll also need preferably vinyl to make the little purse strap holder. Sorry, I can't talk and cut at the same time because I end up cutting stitches. So really you don't have to cut the bottom of it because it doesn't matter. So again, be sure this white fabric is pulled to the back, whatever liner fabric you have. You don't want it flipped like this, and you want it flipped under the hoop, because if it sews together, it will not be correct. So I'm going to change to different thread. I'm trying to decide if I want to do white or black or just stick with blue. I think I'm actually going to go white. That will match the World's Best Boss coffee cup. So this is going to be for the satin stitch that goes across. Now if you're doing the bean stitch option, instead of a satin stitch being here, it would be a bean stitch, which is why I said if you're using vinyl, it would be okay to use the bean stitch. But for fabric, I definitely recommend doing the satin stitch. But of course, you can do a satin stitch with vinyl as well. Okay, now in this particular design, this is, like I say, the Parker on the Porch zipper bag. The satin stitch has 2 steps, and the first one is optional. The first one makes little, like, I don't even know how to describe it, like little lines, like decorative lines, and then it's that satin stitches over that. So it kind of looks like a blanket stitch, I think is what it's called. Or you can just skip it and just do the regular satin stitch, which is what I'm going to do. I don't want the little extra decorative things. Just be sure you keep this fabric out of the way. This is not super riveting, but it is part of the process. But the good news is, as far as only the stitching, it takes 11 minutes for all of this. So by the time you factor in the fabric cutting and the zipper placement and all that stuff, you're looking at probably 30 minutes to make a whole bag. So it doesn't take a long time. It's very easy, very fast. Like I said, this is just for the, it's not called Daybreak. I think it's just called a plain composite bag or applique bag. I can't remember. Now, if you get into some of the ones that have a little bit more complicated applique pieces or decorative stitching, it's going to take a little bit longer. But this one is very simple. And as I said earlier, you don't have to do this applique piece. You could just leave the front of it solid if you want and just skip through the other steps. I really wanted to use the silver vinyl on the back, but I don't think I'm going to have enough. I don't think I am. dirty because I'm going to have to flip over to the back. Since I am making this into a purse, you will need some of these D-rings. You can get them in, I believe, a 4-pack at Hobby Lobby for like $2. Maybe they're not very expensive. You can get them at Walmart, Joann's, pretty much any craft store or anywhere that even sells any type of sewing supplies. They'll have D-rings. You can use circular rings, but I like the D-rings better just because they have the flat edge. It makes it a little bit easier to get them on. Okay, so now is the time for the back piece. So you're going to take this piece. I'm going to use a little bit of temporary adhesive to hold it. And be sure, hold on. Up here where I had used temporary adhesive to hold it, it was still a little sticky, so be sure you pull it all the way down because you should have 2 lines exposed at the top. So if your fabric is up too high when it sews, that zipper will be blocked and you won't be able to get into it. So be sure you have 2 lines exposed at the top. And then you're going to flip it back over. Which I'm probably going to have to cut this because it's sticking out too far. Okay, so let me once again be sure. Okay, so the next stitch is just going to be a basically a tack down stitch for the back. What is with this embroidery frame? It's not going to work. Okay. There we go. Okay. If you used a very thick vinyl, just be sure it doesn't get caught when it's going there. My vinyl's pretty thin, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, and the next step is the most crucial step of the whole process. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. So I'm going to take my piece of tape off over here. And I'm going to take this piece of tape off here. And you are going to need to unzip the zipper. If you do not unzip it, your bag will be sewn shut because it's going to sew here. It's going to sew over here. So if your zipper is outside of the stitch area, it's going to stitch right through it and you won't be able to unzip it. So be sure, once again, this is extremely crucial. It says you only need to unzip it about that much, but I find it's very hard to unzip a zipper from the outside trying to get in. So I like to unzip it pretty far. And I'm actually going to put this piece of tape back down just to hold this. Okay, I really want to use this. Oh, I'm not going to have enough silver. Well, I guess I'll just do black vinyl on the back, which you can do just fabric on the back. I just like it to be a little bit thicker. I feel like it holds up a little better. Trying to be sure I have black vinyl and not brown. Okay. This one has a line right through it. Oh, it'll be okay. hand trying to measure as I do this. Okay. Unfortunately, this vinyl is not stored rolled up, so it has this kind of ridge in it, but it'll be okay. Don't hit it with a blow dryer after I'm done, and it will be fine. Okay. So now is the time if you would like to add any little hangers or little rings that stick out the side, like key clips, anything like that. Now is the time to add it. So I am going to add, decide if I want to use that black vinyl or silver. I can play with this. So you're going to take your D-rings here, adjust this a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to take just the scrap piece of silver vinyl. It doesn't need to be super long. And I'm going to look at how wide my D-ring is and just cut me a little piece. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can fold it in half if you're worried about it being uneven and check it. Mine's just a hair. So then I'm going to do another one, just the same. I used the first one as a template for the second one. Okay, check this one. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take your little piece of vinyl. I definitely recommend using vinyl for the straps because if you use fabric, it's probably going to stretch out and tear. So yeah, you could use any type of vinyl. This is pretty thin. You could use a thicker vinyl. I wouldn't want to go too thick just because it's going to be hard to bend around the D-ring. So you have the flat side of the D-ring here. You're going to go through and just put it on like that. And then what you're going to do, let me find my tape. Okay, so you need to look at the top of your purse. So here's one side and the other side. So you need to get two purse straps on here. So you don't want them too close to the middle and you don't want them so far that they're hanging off the edge. So just kind of be the judge. I usually go probably about an inch from the side seam, and you don't want it up like this. You want it so it's inside like that over the edge. That way when it sews and then when you flip it, it will be within that seam. And this is going to stitch along the top of the zipper. So just kind of keep that in mind. So you don't want to make it too long. Okay, so there's one. Another piece of tape. Okay, so that's there, and then I'm also going to tape the D-ring part just to be sure it doesn't get scrunched up. I'm going to tape it down like that, and like this. Okay, so now let me consult the directions again to be sure I'm doing this correctly. Okay, so you have two steps left. The next step is going to be putting on the fabric that you want for the back of the bag. So I'm using this black vinyl. So this is going to cover everything. So that's why it's so important to be sure you have this happens to be, and again, be sure your zipper is open. If you forget, you can fix it, but you will have to pull a lot of stitches, and this is a very big hassle. I have done it more times than I care to admit. Okay, so just be sure everything is covered. And you just want to watch when it gets to where these D-rings are, where it's a little bit thick. Be sure that your foot doesn't push it or catch or anything like that. So just kind of guide it around for the first time. And it will sew over that zipper. That's why it's so important that your zipper has to be open. This goes around, I believe, 3 times, maybe 4 times, I don't remember, but it reinforces very well. And you'll have one more step after this, which is the other liner piece that will go on the back side of the hoop. I believe this is the last time around. Okay, so this is the final step. Let me move you guys up a little bit. Okay, so you're going to take the hoop out once again, and you'll have this back piece. If you used fabric, my fabric doesn't really have a pretty side or an ugly side. But if you used fabric that does have a pretty side, that is the side that you should be seeing now, is the pretty side should be up. So when you stitch this on, the pretty side would have been down, and then you flip it pretty side up. And then if your fabric that you're using for the other liner piece has a pretty side, it should go down. So the two pretty sides should be together. And you're just going to want to get this on. I'm going to use a little bit of temporary adhesive to hold it. If you can, don't spray temporary adhesive in the middle of where the bag is. Whoops. You just want it on the outside edge. Because if you spray it in the middle part of the bag, then your bag will stick together on the inside. Okay. So I have my two pieces of fabric. I know it's hard to see, but they're face to face on the back. I'm going to get this turned back around. And this last step will just be to secure the other liner piece. Okay, so I'm just going to sew that all together. I believe this just goes around twice, and it will leave an opening at the bottom. So it doesn't stitch in a full circle all the way around. It goes like 3/4 of the way around, then it comes back because it leaves an open spot at the bottom. So that is all the stitching. So let me turn you guys back up here. I'm trying to look at my computer to be sure I'm aiming the right way. So this is what the finished thing should look like in the hoop. That's the front. That's the back. And it looks like a big wad of nothing, but you will see it come to life. So just take it out of the hoop. So this is what you have. I'm just going to rip off the extra tearaway that's on the edges. Just gives me a little bit less to have to worry about cutting. Okay. So now, okay, just being sure that's sewed right, because it did. Okay. So now you are just going to go around, which I recommend sewing this side, or cutting this side, because you can see the opening that it left. And you'll just cut around the entire thing. Just be sure that you don't cut into any stitches. You want to leave a little bit of a seam allowance on the edge. And if you're unsure, you can always turn the bag over and be sure. Okay, so there's one side done. Okay. So this is what it should look like now. This is the open spot at the bottom. You want to leave little tabs. Touch this side up a little bit and cut it close enough. You don't want to cut it so close that it's going to pull out. You can see that's about how much room I left on that side. On the side with the liner piece, about that much. So about 1/8 of an inch, let's say, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so now the fun part. So you have all of these lovely layers at the bottom, and you will notice if you pull on them, 2 of them are not sewn together, which are going to be your 2 back liner pieces. You can open it up and see inside. So you're going to have to flip this entire thing through there. Just be very careful, because especially like I use fabric, this stitching right there on the edge, it has a tendency to want to pull out. So just kind of do it as gingerly and carefully as you can without ripping the stitching. If it does rip, you can just go back to a sewing machine and just sew it up. It's not a huge deal. This is very thick. I'm so paranoid that I'm going to rip the stitching. Usually once you get it started, you can go, but it's just that initial flip is like, it's not easy. Okay, you're getting there, slowly but surely. Okay. So you're going to flip it the first time. And again, it does not look like a purse. You have to actually flip this 2 times. Be sure you get in all your corners. You want them pushed out all the way. So all 4 corners, check and be sure that they are pushed out completely. So now what you're going to do is this is what you have on the bottom, because you flip. So now your two lining pieces are what's out. And your zipper should be like this on the top. And that's why you want tearaway stabilizer. So now what you're going to do before you flip it completely is you are going to take these bottom little wing pieces and fold them in. And you can either use steam-a-seam or you can just sew it on a regular sewing machine, which is what I'm going to do. And you just want to hold it in. Oops. Fold it in and just sew across. So I'm going to sew that up and I'll be right back. Roll you guys over this way. And if you want to go a little bit past it on either side, it can help to reinforce where the stitching is, where you had to flip it. If it's torn or weak at all, you can go ahead and sew over it. I ripped my thread. Okay. I'm not leaving you guys, I promise. I'm just having struggles. The downside of sewing through a lot of layers is if you don't have a huge sewing machine, it tends to kind of get stuck. Sorry, I don't know why this is not working. There we go. Okay. Let me try this again. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, y'all. This is like turning into a whole disaster. Okay. We're just going to leave it for now. But either way, you would sew this up, but my machine is not one to cooperate at the moment, so I'm just going to leave it. So anyway, imagine this is sewed together. So you're going to go up here to where your zipper is with your tearaway stabilizer, and you're just going to kind of work with it until you can tear it out. If you need to use a seam ripper, you can, because you'll have these little, the placement stitches are across there, and you can rip those out because they're just that, placement stitches. They're not being used for anything. So you'll see as I start to tear it off, you can see the zipper in there. This is why it's so important that you have your zipper open, and also that you don't use cutaway stabilizer because it's extremely hard to get into. Can be done, but do not recommend. Okay. So just be sure you get it off as best you can. Any little placement stitches that are hanging out, you can trim those off. And now this is what it looks like. This is where I had my zipper open. So now I'm just going to reach in and finish unzipping it. And then I'm going to pull my tape off my D-rings. So now you can see the purse is just inside out. So you're just going to flip it. And again, be sure your corners are good. I'm going to push them out really, really hard. Be sure they're out all the way. Okay, so this turned out pretty good. And so this is what you have now. There's your little purse. You can just zip it right across. And there's your little purse hangers. You can clip a strap on, or you can sew one on. So there you go. Unzip. And that's the inside. They're white. Easy. So anyway, I hope you guys found that tutorial helpful. I know it's good sometimes to just see it actually being played out versus just reading it. I'll probably come back and do another purse tutorial of a different style of purse at some point later on. I don't know when, but I definitely recommend Parker On The Porce for zipper bags. And pretty much any zipper bag can be turned into a purse. You just add these little D-rings when you do the back piece. So yeah, there you go. Hope this was helpful. Hope you guys have a good night. I will talk to you guys later.